One cool thing that they did here, so this thing here on the ground not only makes this environment grounded to the logic of the street, but from the distance you can see this already. So even if you don't see the entrance, you can still see this thing, which is signposting that there is an entrance here. There is a light coming from this corner, which is making like this nice details popping out. We call it rim light, and the rim light helps to define the silhouette of the character. It's also a key light coming, I guess, from more like the front that is creating like this sort of thing, and it creating like this triangle, which is very common when you have a face, when you're like taking a picture of yourself or you're trying to take a picture of someone. If you can make the lighting that creates a triangle here, it will you're making a nice. We got some storytelling here, so probably that's where there was like a mark or something.
A little bit spicy.
We're drinking. It's nice to see that, you know, this table is not pristine, but it's like used. Also the lighting behind it's really cool, and sometimes we try to color the lights in a way that defines the character in terms of colors. I don't know if that's the case, but here we go, like this. We got this yellow light which creates these silhouettes here, which adds details to the scene, and then nicely create a gradient with this blue light. You can see how the blue light blends with the orange one. And in general, like in this case, because we have this very nicely done jacket, with the lighting we try to get old school, really all of these details. Visually, we know that this is like off limit, because there's like a bar like that, there's like a bar that says no, like that, which is maybe the visual language that this game is going for. Again, we've got plenty of leading lines leading here, we got pipes, but we got a lot of details, really cool. But then because here it's like, oh no, you cannot go there, all the leading line goes the right side. So you can still see details behind, but there's no access. So because of that, all those leading lines leading here, they are then gravitating to the left. One cool thing that they did here, so this thing here on the ground not only makes this environment grounded to the logic of the street, because I guess this is like no parking here or no stopping here, because there is this door, this entry here, so you don't want to block the traffic. But from the distance, you can see this already. So even if you don't see the entrance, you can still see this thing, which is signposting that there is an entrance here.
Wow!
Got a nice variation in terms of contrast here. You see all these elements here. They're all nicely blending these details here. You can see how the wall is like vertical, and then we got the floor. And we got so many elements here that helps making this scene nice and tidy for the eye. So starting from the bottom, we got the skirting here, and then after the skirting, which is this part here, we got this extra element here, which is a little bit of details there. Got this part here, which is this part here, and then if we keep climbing up, we got this thing to get to here, and then again we got another one which is here, which is the darker part, which goes to that, and then we got the pipe, we got other colors, etc, etc. So all those details visually helps to blend all the details to make an interesting composition. So even if you don't place assets, you can do already a lot with the material variation and material color. We got this graffiti, which creates another nice details there to blend the details. Plus we got like this part of road here, which is another things that you have here, and then we have these yellow lines, which is another yellow line. So you can see how the details are nicely distributed to the way that things blend together. And then obviously at the end we got...
What are the skills that helps you to become a better environment artist?
My background started from a graphic design, and I've always been into photography in general. I like taking photos. So I think those two together really helped me to get a solid foundation of composition, shapes, contrast, lighting, colors, and those are like same fundamentals that you need to have when you're making an environment. So definitely having hobbies like photographies, or if you know about graphic design, if you want to learn more, I think that's a really good opportunity to level up your skills. Three main colors, which is this blue here, we got this color here, we got this dark gray anthracite color, and we got this white color here. And you can see they are used everywhere in different combination here. Cool element. And last thing, we got nice paddles.
I was waiting for this moment.
So even if you add in an interior, maybe there is like a broken pipe on the ceiling somewhere that is like making some water dripping down and lands on this thing. If you have an effect that you can place to make that even more obvious, that's definitely a good way to do that. One thing that I want to say again is the arrows here are there to tell the player straight away that they need to go right here. In this case, it's very obvious because it's just like a L-shaped corner, but in general, even if this was a T-shaped corner, players know that they need to go on the right side here. The material reflection is really cool. You can see already all the details that we spoke about earlier, about like all these transitional details ending. So in this case, we got obviously these branding elements of this space that we just stepped into it. We got Insta Food, which I guess is a food dispenser that gives you food, I assume. We got warning signs there that tells us that those are electric boxes and they are high voltage or something. We got something written there that can tell us something. And in general, as I always say it in every game that we play, branding is really good details to connect the environment that the player is playing with the reality. So in this case, in the real world, we got plenty of branding everywhere. If you go in a public space, you will see a lot of signs, a lot of branding, and all of that makes the environment more grounded to reality, as well as connects that link, especially if the environment is now set in the present where we live. Got a ceiling fan here, which is pretty good, and it's something that we often do in games, is to add movement. In fact, this fan here is spinning and it creates some sort of nice movement in the scene. Obviously the lighting in this game is really cool in my opinion. We got like this like very diffuse neon light, and you can see how effective source of light here to get the details from. And one thing that is very good to keep in mind is that if you have a source of light that is sort of horizontal, so if I draw in 2D, that's the word. If the source of light is here and is casting light like that, all the roughness information that you have on the floor, you will get them much more highlighted thanks to this light bouncing and then going to the player's eye, right? Just that. Where on the other end, sometimes if you have light from the top, so imagine if there's a light from the top here. In this case, let's draw it here. Ceiling, we got a light from the top here that creates this sort of conic effect. The light bouncing, it will bounce in different ways, so it's much harder to get those reflections. So that's why I think a light from the vertical plane casting horizontal light is much better to get the interesting roughness details of floors and ceiling. You can see also in the ceiling here, we got like this nice highlight on the metal structure of that office ceiling, and that's the same reason because this bounce there and then goes to the eye. I hope that makes sense. We know that the player is gonna go through. Probably we know that the players will take cover there. And what's really good about this is the layering. It gives you the impression that the walls are not just a cube, but they are more than that. The fact that you got a plaster there that has some crack and some broken parts coming from the opening, and then we got some cinder blocks, and you can see there are also cinder block around it, which is really good. Like in this case, the amount of wall that is missing, I should see much more debris around it, but maybe they clear it. But it's nice to see that some cinder blocks are still around it to show that okay, they clear it, but the heaviest part are still there and they're all around, which is like a cool touch. We got some metal bins, not only add like more information to the silhouette, but also add the material contrast, so that we got this plaster, this cinder block, this metal, and everything. It's pretty cool. And lastly, because we all know that the inside walls there are cables, I don't know if that's a cable, but probably having also cables that are like hanging out from the wall where the thing is broken, it's a really good way to add extra details is this thing. And it's also really nice, I don't know if that's the case, but the graffiti on the side, it's nice that they are there, and where the wall is broken, they end as well, which shows the graffiti were there before they opened the thing. So in a timeline, someone did the graffiti first, and then someone came here and destroyed these things, which gives us a sense of timeline things. And you can see some products. You have products there that breaks the silhouette. You got other details like tiles where the cabinet is, they're kind of broken. So you can see how far